Hello, everybody. James here. Story time with Dutch Mantell, and I chose the wrong. I chose the right time to go back on. The fedora is back out. I will do the intro very quickly because I've got to say this is going to be may even be the longest episode we've ever done. And to explain the background behind me, my internet died, so I had to come to my sister's house. Dutch's audio is still not restored to where it should be. Apologies, but it's still not too bad. Don't worry. We've got books to sell. I've got two Owen Hart and The Rock. You can get them on Amazon. And the links are in the description. Same descriptions with Dutch's two books. And if you want them signed, you go to Dirty Dutch Mantell with 2 L's at gmail.com. And to introduce the Dirty Dutchman himself with... Oh, the hat's gone. It's gone back on. Hello, Dutch. This has been a terrible day.
Good morning. We're having all kind of problems this morning.
Man.
See, that's the problem. See, you're living in the UK. So we're crossing the entire Atlantic. It's really crazy to even think about that can even be done. But they've done it for years. But we're crossing the Atlantic on a cable, aren't we? Aren't we on a cable?
Yeah, some giant underground cable or some internet sky satellite malarkey, something like that.
Well, I'm glad to be here.
But you're always there.
Did you watch WrestleMania?
I did watch WrestleMania, and we are going to talk about WrestleMania, and we are going to talk about a lot of things today. And but you know what? Before we do get to WrestleMania, we've got so much news to cover. It's probably been the biggest news day, week ever. I think in
the wrestling business.
Yeah, before we get to the major news, let's talk about something that came up this morning, I think, and that is the passing of Butch Miller, AKA Bushwhacker Butch.
Yep, good guy. And I heard that he had flown from New Zealand, Auckland, I guess, or to Los Angeles to, I guess, participate in the WrestleMania festivities. And he met his partner, Luke, there. And after he made the flight, he got sick, I heard. And then they put him in the hospital, and then he died yesterday. Now, what he died of, I don't know. But I've known him basically all my wrestling career. I met him in Atlanta years ago. I mean, it's almost another lifetime ago I met him. And he was just Luke calls him a crazy redneck New Zealander. That he was just crazy, drinking, oh yeah, screaming and hollering. But very good guy and very enthusiastic. I learned a lot from him. And then later on, Vince McMahon saw him and he brought him to the WWF. And they were really a brutal team at one time. But he made them like a comedy act, which they still got over. But they weren't even using the same style that they had used prior to getting to the WWF. They used to be a really kick-ass team. And then Vince, and he liked them that way because he told them that they make him laugh. And they made money, so they don't really care. But my condolences to the family and friends and fans of Bushwhacker Butch.
I interviewed Luke last year, and he told me that when they were in the WWF and they were doing the Bushwhacker thing and licking the fans and stuff like that, Luke would always put the hand on it and go, lick the back of his hand. Whereas Butch would just get stuck right in there. He would just lick the fans no matter where they were from, what town they were in. He did not care, so he was the wild man.
Well, he was 78, and he had a lot of miles on him, so... He lived a good life. I never heard anybody say anything bad about him. Mm-hmm. He's always a friendly guy, always willing to help.
The big news is Vince McMahon has grown a mustache. And now...
You have a picture.
I'll put a picture on the screen in post, I promise you. But, I mean, I posted a photo a couple of days ago, and I kept being accused that people had been... I'd been accused that I'd faked it, or it was a deep fake. But I mean, how many different people have you heard him compared about?
No, you told me it was a fake.
No, I didn't. I told you it was real.
Did you?
Yeah, I told you it was real because I took a screenshot from a video that Pro Wrestling Noah in Japan had filmed, and that they were filming backstage for the Great Muta's Hall of Fame induction, and that's the first we've publicly seen Vince's crazy little mustache. But I've heard loads Gomez Adams, a budget Clark Gable, Dick Dastardly.
I said he looked like a villain in a James Cagney, Humphrey Bogart film, 1937. But his face also looks different.
Yeah.
Botox, I'm saying.
Mm-hmm. But he's had too much. Because if you have too much Botox, then you start looking like you have some horrific burns instead, or like you've been in a house fire.
Well, he certainly looks different. But when I started reading about the sale of WWE to Endeavor, or the merging, it's not really the sale, $9.3 billion. Let me ask you this.
Yes.
Endeavor's going to have 51%, correct?
Correct.
WWE is going to control 49%.
Correct.
They made $9.3 billion just selling 51% of their property.
I have heard something completely different this morning, is that actually it may well be, and this may be wrong in a day or two, bear with us, is that there was no money transacted. Simply, it's a merging of two companies, but only a controlling interest of 51%, WWE merging with Endeavor. So Endeavor's going to sort of mostly take over the company and build it up, but I'm not sure Endeavor's actually paid any money at all.
Well, why did they even mention that?
I don't know. I don't know why they've not mentioned it. They valued it at $9.3 billion, the business, but I'm not sure if they've paid 51% of that. I'm not sure if they paid nothing. It's a bit of a mystery at this point.
No kidding. But I heard it was worth $9.3 billion, the entire company.
Mm-hmm.
But if they just let go 51% at $9.3 billion, but you said you don't know if there's any money changed hands. I don't know. I'm gonna have to research that now. Let me call my guys in New York.
Well, you were researching Ari Emanuel's brother, weren't you?
Yes, I was.
What's he all about?
No, I read the name Ari Emanuel. Emanuel's not a common name in the United States, so I looked it up. And the only other name I had heard of Emmanuel was Rahm Emanuel, who was a mayor of Chicago about 10 years ago. And then he was the White House chief of staff under President Obama. And now he's the acting ambassador to Japan. So the Emanuels are quite connected, I would think.
Sounds like it. So what the corporate structure is going to look like now will be Ari Emanuel, who is going to be the end-all, be-all sort of both companies, because WWE and UFC are going to be split apart from Endeavor, and they're going to be floated on the stock market under their own brand that encompasses only those two companies. So we have a guy called Patrick Whitesell, who remains Endeavor Executive Chairman, and Mark Shapiro remains President of Endeavor and the new company, and Vince McMahon will be Executive Chairman of the new company, with Nick Khan as President of WWE and Dana White remaining as President of UFC. So this could just be Vince McMahon. Vince McMahon's played the long game here, and he has played it masterfully, hasn't he?
Sure did. Like when he had that trouble and he stepped down, oh, he's gone. He's gone. The big bad wolf is dead. Let's dance around. But while he was gone, Triple H, he took that roster that, and I'll have to say, that Vince had butchered, basically, and kind of turned it around to where they draw this 2 nights in a row, a sellout in SoFi Stadium. 80,000 seats, or how many people they put in there. But he's done a masterful job at it. And now, and somebody told me this morning that Vince is coming back in, actually stronger than before when he left. And now I heard this morning that the talent was demoralized. And I'm thinking, get the F out of here. They look at a check, and the check should tell them everything they need to know about having low morale. Get your $10,000 or $20,000 a week check and go on. And a lot of cases, a lot more than that. So don't be demoralized. To me, I think this is probably the biggest thing that's happened to pro wrestling ever is this merger, because Endeavor is not only connected to the music world, the fashion world, the acting world. I mean, they represent clients in a lot of different ways, which, if you think about it, will work good for the talent in WWE when they finish wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
Because who knows what doors that will open for them. And so when they leave WWE, they may step right into an acting role. They may step into another role, a fashion role, anything. But who knows? But I think for the talent, this is also a big plus for them too.
What do you think some of the other practical changes are going to happen in WWE? Because I've speculated that there's going to be a lot of corporate reshuffling. In fact, basically in the press release, they've said there's going to be a lot of corporate reshuffling and merging between UFC backstaff and WWE backstaff so they can cut costs. But how do you expect the merger to affect the on-screen presentation, if at all?
I don't know if it's going to affect it at all. Unless Vince decides I'm going to get involved again.
I'm glad you mentioned that, Dutch. I'm glad you mentioned it.
They were rumors that Vince changed a few things on WrestleMania. But if I was Vince, I would say, listen. Well, I wouldn't say listen, but I would think that it's running pretty smoothly right now. So let Triple H and the creative team go and do what they've been doing well for the last 8 months and kind of step out of it. Because why would Vince, other than ego, of course he has a big one, other than ego, why would he want to get back involved in creative? I would think his day would be filled just doing corporate work and office work for these two new companies, these massive companies that have just merged. So, but I don't know if we're going to see that much. And when we do see it, I think we'll know it right away. Now, I first got my glimpse that something had changed, and this was before I even heard about Endeavor. You know when I first heard about Endeavor? When they did the press conference after WrestleMania. One guy asked him that news was going to be released tomorrow, he thinks. This was Sunday, and it was released Monday, that the company was going to be taken over by Endeavor. Of course, Paul Heyman, him and Roman were on the dais up there getting interviewed. And of course, Paul Heyman blew it off. He said, that guy, he's known for starting trouble and starting this, starting that. But yeah, they took it over. They took it over the next day. But my first red flag that I had that something had changed in WWE was when Shane McMahon showed up.
Yeah.
Totally unannounced. He danced down there, and he's doing this and he's doing that, and he was doing the Shane McMahon shuffle. Then they shut him in. He laid down. Then he did the leapfrog. No good. And he went down, knee completely blown out.
Do you know what? It wasn't his knee. I know what the injury was. It was the family trait. It was a torn quad.
May have been. Yeah, it didn't look like a knee, but, I could see it may have been confused as a knee, but the quad is in the back of the leg, right?
I thought it was at the front of the leg, above the knee. I don't know. Anyway, we will be getting to that at the WrestleMania review that we'll be doing later on in this show. So frazzled today, Dutch. Honestly, it's been one of them days. Anyway, we're going to talk tiny bit more about this. So you only just heard of Endeavour a couple of days ago, so I take it you weren't expecting them to buy it, but at least Saudi Arabia didn't buy it, which is a good thing. At least Disney didn't buy it, which that was something that was going on years ago that we thought Disney would buy it, so it's good that they haven't got it. And UFC, when Dana White and the Fertitta brothers bought the UFC, when it was a real failing proposition in the early 2000s, Lorenzo Fertitta modelled the entire business model of UFC on the WWF at that time, as far as, like weekly shows and pay-per-views and business and everything.
But Dana White publicly denounced WWE back in those days.
Yep.
He said, we're not going to be wrestling. We're not going to be none of that fake-ass stuff. We're not going to do that. And look at them now. They've adopted everything that WWE has done because it's good marketing. And Dana White, he thinks he knows all this. I don't think he knows this. He should know enough not to slap his wife around at some bar late at night when cameras are around. Mm-hmm. Did you see that?
Do you know, I never saw the video. I've heard, so apparently what wasn't captured was his wife slapped him around quite a few times, and then Dana was like, oh, you're having one back now.
Hey, if that'd been anybody else, what if that had been Vince McMahon doing that, slapping Linda? Oh, my God, it'd been the end of the world. What if that had been Obama slapping his old lady? Oh my God, what the hell? Or Trump. I think they, conveniently picked their targets. And Dana White, I don't think they thought that was fruit that wasn't hanging so low they could pick it, or they don't give a crap about him. But I do remember Dana White publicly denouncing wrestling years ago and telling the UFC fans there's going to be nothing like wrestling. Oh, yeah? Okay. And who is sitting in the middle of all this? Mr. Vince. So he still didn't go. Actually, he has more power now than what he had, I think.
A couple of people can overrule him. Ari Emanuel, I think there may be one other person who can overrule Vince. But essentially, I don't think anyone's going to be overruling Vince. They're just going to believe that Vince knows what he's doing more than anyone else and sort of bow to his greater knowledge. Where do you think Triple H is going to be left in all this? Because Vince was on the headsets on Raw, and it seemed like he was running the show.
Well, he may have been running the show, but that's just tell somebody else to get up here, tell them to get them on deck, do this, do that. Because I'm sure Vince didn't want to sit in the back like a moron, because he wanted, and he's used to doing that all the time. So he wanted to get back and feel like he was at least running it. I don't think he had that much to do with the end result of these matches. I don't think he sat in on creative. I don't know how he could stand to sit in on creative. What you need in creative a lot of times is a gun. Either to shoot yourself or shoot the other members of creative.
Depending on how many bullets you've got.
Yeah, if you only had 6, there'd be 8 on there. You'd have 2 that end up running it. So, but I don't know for sure. But the only match I think he would have any influence over, and this wasn't that really a call, but I think it was the Cody match, which, left the room kind of stunned. Mm-hmm. But can't you bet on those matches now?
Yeah, you could bet on those matches, but I don't know. I mean, this is something we never talked about, because it was sort of in between weeks that WWE was trying to, or it was leaked that WWE was trying to basically become some sort of legitimate means of betting, like the Oscars. Or they actually said, you can bet on the Oscars even though they're predetermined.
Well, all the money was on Cody. All the money. Even I said Cody will win. I said that because I looked at everything going on.
Yeah, it made sense.
And this is your big show, and you drew a big house, and you got big ratings now, and you get ready to sign this big deal. Because I didn't know that at the time. And then when the finish came, I'm sitting there going, what the hell? I mean, they work me. So, but that's the beauty, really. That's the beauty of being a wrestling fan. Because now you can sit back and think about it. But I think this is something I heard over the weekend. Oh, it was actually the interview that Triple H did after WrestleMania second night. They interviewed him. And this is the only person I've ever heard that had the same vision of wrestling that I had in Puerto Rico. Because I booked it, and I would always say I would never blow it off. I might have a winner, but I'd never blow it off unless it was a loser leave. I never really had one of those. But he says the story never stops. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't stop, because if you got to keep the story going. And the reason I thought that was wrestling fans never stop thinking, and they never forget. See, that's why one thing it didn't work between me and Alberto Del Rio was because, hey, I went to have knee surgery is what I had. But before I left, we hated each other. And now when he brought me back, and this was Vince's idea, he wanted me to manage Alberto Del Rio. And I didn't see it because I didn't tell Vince that. And the people didn't buy it. And about a month later, they just dropped it. I mean, they did a little deal in the back where Alberto kind of, he ought to beat the hell out of me or something, and then I left. And that's the way they wrapped it up. But I told them, I said, this is not going to work. And I had a way for it to work, but they didn't want to hear it. See, if it's Vince's idea, nobody can disagree with that. Because if you disagree with it, you're being contrary to him, and he don't want to deal with it.
Now,
Triple H is not like that. He'll talk about it.
I sent a screen grab. I sent a screen grab of Vince to my brother, and he texts back that, oh, Vince McMahon looks like a smashed crab these days.
He looked like a what?
He looked like a smashed crab.
Oh, God.
My brother's very harsh. But I mean, why he? It's the most disturbing thing is when someone dyes their eyebrows. I think that's when it's really, really weird. And he's gone for chestnut brown. So I'm a big fan of Frasier, and there's an episode where John Mahoney, Frasier's dad, dyes his hair with boot polish, and it leaks down his face, and it looks just like that.
Oh my God! Well, now who do you think influenced him to do that?
Maybe boredom.
He's got a girlfriend, you know.
No, well, I can believe that. He's paid off enough of them.
Stop it. I cannot believe you badmouth Vince. Stop. But yeah, he has paid off a lot.
I can't believe he's trying to recapture his youth at 77 as well. It just seems he cannot look in the mirror and think this is a great look. No one will know.
Well, again, I don't say it is what it is.
Yeah. Well, and I wonder if he's just too powerful for anyone to bring it up to him, or else they'll be fired or something. But yes. How
many WrestleManias have you ever watched in their entirety?
I think I've probably missed about 5 or 6, and I've seen all the others. I've watched 1 to 30. I know that.
All of them?
Yeah.
All the way through?
All the way through.
Guess how many I've watched?
I know how many you've watched. You told me it's that one.
This one. Even the ones I was on, I did watch. Because before the show was over, I'd be in the car and gone to the next town. Hell, they knew what they was going to do, and they didn't need me, so I'd leave.
You told me that you were at 6, so I'm trying to figure out which ones. You're on 11, I know that. You must.
I was on 10 and 11.
No. 10 was 94. So you were on 11 and 12, which is 95, 96.
Okay, 11 and 12.
Okay. And so you must have been on the ones 2013, 2014, 2015, 2016 as well.
No, I wasn't there. I was hurt.
Oh, you never went. You never went to one of those.
I was on 213, which is 29. Then I was in 2014, which is 30. And then I didn't make the rest of them.
Yeah. Well, you saved yourself the drive at least.
I did.
We are going to talk about WrestleMania in a bit. We've got some news to carry on with, though. Enzo Amore. Is he Enzo Amore or Enzo Amore? I can't remember. Anyway, he has been fired, quote unquote, from MLW. This was nearly, 2 weeks ago? Under his post WWE name of Real One, he was going to wrestle current MLW champion Alex Hammerstone, and Court Bauer went out and said that he was fired because he didn't like creative. This is Enzo didn't like creative, and basically let him go. Enzo basically came out and said he was right. He didn't like some of the creative. He said he didn't feel like making fun with somebody with cancer. Apparently, that was something he was asked to do. And then
who was that?
This is Enzo Amore didn't want to make fun of somebody with cancer, so he says, and he also didn't realise he was booked for one of these matches that he apparently was publicly booked for. Memories of Enzo, if you have many of them, because I know you didn't really cross paths too much.
Well, I remember Enzo. He was mostly in NXT when I was there, but I kept hearing about him. He has a tendency, I've heard, to like rub people the wrong way. And actually, I've spent more time with him at signings that I've done after WWE, and he seems to be okay with me. I didn't see anything that would. Very friendly, very courteous, nice. But it got to a point they threw him out of the dressing room at one point. Told him to get the hell out, threw his bag out in the hallway, and told him to get dressed out there. I guess he went and found him another room, I guess. But I don't know what that was about. But I think he has a tendency to tell people what he thinks, which sometimes can be a career-ending move. And it could be a dangerous move, too, if you tell the wrong person what you think, according to how prone they are to violence. And, of course, being around wrestlers, they're usually 6 foot and taller, and some of them weigh over 220 and to 300 pounds. So you pick a bad spot to kind of tell people how you really feel. I learned a long time ago, keep your mouth shut, stay in your own lane, don't involve yourself in anything that doesn't concern you, and you'll be a lot better off.
I should
but
also...
I didn't meet a lot of... I've never met a lot of Enzo fans, let me say that. But personally, he's okay to me. I met him and talked to him, and I liked him.
I should also add that Enzo said that he did not have a contract, so he basically just wasn't being used rather than being specifically fired. Next on the agenda... Oh, he also calls Court Bauer shiesty. So he believed that he put out a false... Enzo believes that Court put out a false narrative to a load of wrestling websites to make it seem like he fired him. Anyway, we're going to move on now, and this is something that is very near and dear to your heart, is Dante Martin, the Dante Martin injury that happened on the Ring of Honor Supercard show, Supercard of Honor, on Friday while attempting to do a Canadian Destroyer spot with Penta off a ladder through a stack of tables.
All I can say is I've never met this young man. And whoever talked him into this, or if he had the idea to do it, he's an idiot. Why would you do something like that? Because if you're looking at it before it happens and you're saying, and I was saying, I would think twice about doing that. And when he landed and then he came down on his knee, he broke his lower leg, which is a bad, bad injury. He'll be out for 9 months at least. And now he's got to go to rehab and retrain and do this and do that. What I'm saying is AEW doing moves like that, why? Won't they? WWE at least had the right idea about this stuff. Tell the story. The fans will remember that maybe 30 seconds, but he will remember this for the rest of his life. Plus, it could have ruined his wrestling career, or it could have actually paralyzed him.
Yeah.
And in the worst possible scenario, has killed him. And they're going to keep doing this and doing this and doing this till somebody is really hurt. And then I don't know whoever the agent was over that who would even allow that to happen. I think it's a good idea. But I've heard the agents can't tell the talent what to do. The talent has more control than the agent over the course of the match or what's going into the match. So if they're doing that, why even have an agent? So I don't know. But little by little by little, they're doing these more dangerous spots. And that's what I liked about the WrestleMania card. You didn't see those crazy spots like that. The craziest spot done during WrestleMania is Logan Paul when he did dive off the turnbuckle, which was well done. And that's what I like about Logan Paul. He didn't mind losing. John Cena didn't either. And I thought both of them might go over because it's Hollywood, especially John Cena. And that's putting the business really ahead of yourself. But I can see why these guys now want to work for WWE and Hollywood, because I bet they made a ton of connections while they were out there. A ton. Because I think people would rather talk to Vince than call him on the phone. So while he was out in LA, I bet he was a very, very busy man.
Now, this has got to be a problem with the top, Tony Khan. And he's trying to be... Is he just trying to be too wrestler-friendly here? He's trying to say, hey, guys, you can finally be free and creative. But the problem is with being free and creative that a lot of wrestlers will try and kill themselves for attention.
Yeah, I think the inmates can't run the asylum. It's an old saying. And Tony cannot be friends with the talent. He can up to a point. But then again, they start controlling him, in a friendly way. And they can get their way. See, the thing with CM Punk, they wanted him to do that last thing with Moxley. And they got a letter, I think, the day before that said he doesn't like it and he's not going to do it. And they had to wait till that day, about 3:00 in the afternoon, to even see if CM Punk would show up, I heard. And then he showed up, and it's a big messed up deal. And then he put out something on Instagram that he takes down about a minute later. They got more stuff. Really, their story is not on camera. Their story was in the back. So they need to start making a damn... you ever seen Succession?
No, I've never seen Succession, no.
You need to see it because it's the family trying to say who's going to take over when the old man leaves. He's 80-something. And it's really, really a good show. AMW is taking all their drama happens back in the dressing room. And I'm watching WWE and I'm watching WrestleMania and I'm watching the lights and I'm watching the music. I like the piano people when they brought that little, 6 pianists out there and they play it. Then the other guy'd go, and he's the orchestra leader. To me, that was entertaining. But they can do that and it's accepted and it looks really high class. It does. If AEW did it, the conductor would be in like a dark light and you wouldn't see him. And it's just the way WWE does things. They do it and they have great lighting. Any photographer will tell you, if you want it to look good, you got to have light. Because if it's dark, you can't tell. But you can see the difference between WWE production and AEW production. And you can see the difference in philosophy, wrestling philosophy, by watching a WWE match and watching an AEW match. And I'm not knocking AEW. They still got to feel their way. They're really a new company. But Triple H gets it, and I think AEW, they haven't found that yet, and they're looking for it.
Rick Steiner banned from WrestleCon over transphobic comments yelled at Giselle Shaw, who was a transgender wrestler currently signed to Impact. Shaw tweeted the accusation against Steiner, who she says repeatedly accosted her at WrestleCon on Friday, calling her a dude, a filth, a piece of trash, and told her to get the F away from here. Shaw also says that Steiner referred to another Impact talent by using an unidentified slur. WrestleCon has responded by banning Rick from all future events. Rick Steiner, he's not a bully, is he?
Well, this is what they said. And it doesn't really sound like Rick so much as it sounds like Scott. Because they don't give a shit. They don't care. Now, Rick, I would think he would care more because he's a teacher in Georgia. And I'm sure that his school district knows about this now, if he's even still with them. And it doesn't matter your views on transgender people. I don't think Rick should have made a scene because it's going to prove embarrassing to him too. And that Giselle Shaw is her name. And I mean, I have a lot of confusion about the transgender issue anyway. But as far as going out and publicly, cussing them out, I would never even think about doing something like that. I mean, but I wish it hadn't have happened. And I mean, that embarrasses Rick, his family, and Giselle Shaw. Let people be who they are, whether you agree with it or not. Nothing you can do about it. If you don't like it, you just don't like it. Anyway.
The thing is, Rick's not daft, is he? I mean, he must know that, how sensitive all this transgender stuff is these days. He must know that if he's going to be yelling something over a packed floor at a convention, that it's going to get out. And it may, negatively impact his career away from wrestling. So, I mean, I don't understand sort of what came over him there. But I think Chris Jericho was like on Twitter or wherever was having a go at Rick, saying, "Dude, you were bullying me," and that kind of thing, and blah 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 blah. But I mean, the Steiners haven't got the best reputation as far as like being as kind to their fellow person, I suppose.
No, they've always done it. Always kind of got by with it. And the reason being is because if you wanted to make an issue of it, they just beat the shit out of it. And they could do it. Now, I'm reading Jericho's comments, and Jericho says, "Hey, you bullied me when I started, but now, you're not going to bully me now. I'm happy to sit down and talk it over with you." That's Chris Jericho talking from 1,000 miles away. Now, I don't know if he wants to get Rick or Scott fired up, even at, I don't know how old they are, but I guess they're just a little bit older than Jericho. But, I mean, they used to do all kind of crazy stuff, and they let it go by because, they didn't really have a dressing room leader when I was in WCW. It was just, of course, you had Ric Flair. Boy, he's a great leader. Yeah, he sets good examples. But if the Steiners didn't like you, they could make your existence in the company, in the dressing room, on the road. They could make it very uncomfortable. And a few guys, I think they did. I'm not sure. I always got along with them. Scott and Rick always I always had respect for them. They had respect for me. But see, I do this on purpose. I go in there and I make people like me. I'm funny. I make them laugh. Nothing about me that make anybody feel uncomfortable, except I look like a gorilla sometimes. But that's only, you just got to love animals is what you got to do. But it is what it is. I wish it hadn't happened, but it did, and Rick got a lot of adverse publicity for it. So we'll go from here with it.
Yeah. Do you think it's going to affect Braun Breaker's career at all with WWE or not?
I don't think so. See, why would it? This is something I don't understand too. Okay, he is. What's his name? Braun Breaker.
Yeah, he's Bronson Rex Steiner. Just called Bronson.
Okay. What purpose would be served by taking it out on him? Nothing. They have trained this boy to be. I mean, he may have stopped some Rick Steiner appearances. I mean, Rick may have stopped his own appearances on WWE. And that will last about a year, I would think. And then all of a sudden, they'll bring you back in. They brought Ric Flair back. But I don't think that I think the kid is too talented, Braun Breaker, for him to be punished for something his father did.
I also want to mention, just very briefly, I hadn't realised that you booked Rick Steiner in Puerto Rico, like around 2002 or something, when you were with the IWA and Victor Quinones.
Yeah, I did. He was fine. Hey, listen. When they leave the dressing room, that's not my carnival, and they're not my monkeys. They can do what they want to do.
And we're going to be talking about WrestleMania 39 now. I asked you, Dutch, hey, Dutch, how about you? I know you watch SmackDown, you watch Rampage for Sportskeeda. How about you fancy doing a bit of WrestleMania watching? And I thought, I'll watch it. I watched it last year. I did a watch-along sort of thing with Joey Mercury.
You did make me watch it.
I did make you watch it. I didn't make you. I just said I highly suggest it.
And I says, well, I've never watched one. Did I tell you that then?
Yeah, no, you didn't at the time. Then you told me the day after, but you did agree. But you were up for it because you have been enjoying SmackDown recently, and
it's a lot better. So I sit down, and I'm watching it, and I didn't watch all the pre-show stuff.
No, I didn't either,
because that's just all talking. Just when the first match went out there, and that's when I went in there and I sat down, and I've never watched another WrestleMania in my life. I've said I've been on them and didn't watch them. I just watched my stuff. But very enjoyable 4 hours. But to ask me to sit down and watch a 3-hour movie, forget a 4-hour movie, because that's a commitment. So I sat down. I said, okay, since I promised you, I'm going to watch it. So I sat down and I watched it all the way through. And I think that is the best, most entertaining wrestling card I've ever watched.
Really?
Oh, yeah, it was good. It was very good. Because they had stories, and most of the matches had a story behind them. Most of them. And the quickest story was Cena and what's his name? Who do you wrestle?
Austin Theory. Yeah.
But you can see where that came about, because he is another Cena in the making. And Vince really liked him. Yeah, he is. I think he is. Because he's a young kid, smart ass. You want to punch him. And I tell you, they got another smart ass kid there you want to slap the crap out of, is Dominik. Mm-hmm. You just want to slap him. And that's what makes a good heel. So anyway, the match with Cena and Theory kind of fooled me too. I didn't expect. I called it both ways. That's like calling heads and tails. But I didn't think Cena would do the honors since he was in Hollywood, but he did. Had a little bit of a screw finish to it. But theory, he gets this phrase for the rest of his career. I beat John Cena on WrestleMania, and he can carry that till he dies, because he did.
The thing with Austin Theory for me is I think just a little tweak in his presentation would make all the difference, because at the moment he just looks like an indie guy. You know what I mean? Like a high level indie guy, and it's the shorts. He either needs long tights or trunks. I always suggest those, like, them biker short styles. They always just make me think of indie.
I think he needs higher boots. That's what makes me. He just wears black boots, right?
Yeah. Are they the short boots, so they're too short for you?
And he wears those trunks. It has a little bit of a pants leg on it too, which makes him look dumpy. I think he needs to wear, tights that come up a little bit higher on the sides, and that would make him look thinner. And I think he does need a little bit of an appearance, adjustment. Because he does. He does have a little bit of an indie look to him.
You see, when he had that mustache beard, that he had half a Vince at one point. That little mustache and then the little beard thing. That was heat-getting facial hair. I would have kept that. Like, now he's just got a beard. There's not too much to hate about that.
And I don't like the beard. I do like the little goatee on him. And I never really cared for that mustache, unless you can get a big one. But that little thin line like Vince has got now, that is heat-getting. Because you see that and you said, oh, to slap the living crap out of you, right? Even thinking about having that. I mean, if you can't grow a mustache, let it go. Don't attempt to do one. Well, that's me, though.
No, I mean, it's one of the most famous mustaches in the world. Saying that? You.
Oh, yeah. Well,
you're authority on mustaches.
If you're going to have one, have one. If you're not, then don't even try it.
Fine words of advice.
The guy on UFC that has the long mustache that comes down almost to his knees.
Yeah, the referee. Yeah, I think it's real.
Is it real?
Yeah, because I've seen it when it's not braided. It's not braided. He wears like rubber bands all the way down, and then he sort of tucks it into his referee top. But on his Instagram, it's almost like a brush. It just sticks out like that. It's almost like a fan.
And to me, that'd be hard to have, because it's in the way. How do you eat? You got half your food going through your mustache.
It's like having two Bianca Belairs, isn't it? Hanging off your face at all times.
That's another pet peeve of mine.
I hate to say this, but I am going to say this.
No,
no, not actually, because I've made mention of Vince McMahon. John Cena's looking a bit old. I felt a bit. Yeah. He seems to have just aged a lot in the last couple of years.
Well, I think it was the color of his hair.
Yes, that didn't help. He's done the Vince.
And it's okay, that color, but it needs to look a little shinier, a little brighter. But it looked dull, and he had the bald spot, and he had no tan. And you look at Theory, he had the tan. He looked much, much younger. And how old is Cena now? He's in 45?
Oh, yeah, he's got to be mid-40s now. I mean, I think he only grew his hair out for Hollywood, and when he's doing these films, you could put a little toupee sort of thing on, or fill it in with some spray or something. But for the wrestling...
That's what he should have put something on that bald spot. You can put the greatest makeup artists in the world are in Hollywood, and WWE employs them too. Just put something to darken your bald spot. I don't know why they didn't do that.
Well, didn't not Chief Jay Strongbow, Wahoo McDaniel, didn't he just spray paint his head?
Yeah, I'm sure he did. And Wahoo was a great guy, and he was another guy that would beat the crap out of you. Mm-hmm. Him and Johnny Valentine they had wars. You know, like Sheamus and Gunther did in Wales. They would have a war, like they would have a war one night for a pay-per-view. But Johnny Valentine and Wahoo, they would do a war seven nights in a row and then go again for 7. I don't know how they did it. They had a couple of guys quit because they couldn't take Johnny Valentine beating the crap out of him.
No, I certainly couldn't.
A guy named Les Thornton.
Yeah.
He actually quit. He said, I ain't doing it. I don't blame him. He said, first of all, they're beating the crap out of me, and I ain't making enough money. And so I must just go home, sit in the rocket chair for a while. And that's what he did.
Next match, the WrestleMania highlight of the... Oh, I forget that was a vignette. WrestleMania Men's Showcase match. Braun Strowman and Ricochet versus Viking Raiders versus Alpha Academy versus Street Profits. I actually thought it was sort of a pleasant surprise. Just quick and punchy and get your spots in and see you later.
Yeah, it was okay. There's no story to it, but maybe a little one. But it's one of those matches. The females had the same thing. It's like, well, we don't really have anything for you to do. We're going to do the WrestleMania showcase. Is that what they called it, right? The showcase?
The showcase.
And they had 2 of them just to get them on the card. I'm okay with that.
We'll skip that one. There's not really much to say. It was better than the women's, though, but we'll get to that in a minute. Brock Lesnar versus Omos, tell over the tape, but we don't need that. But now we're at Seth Rollins versus Logan Paul. And the first... Logan Paul, you were saying before, a real smackable face, but he really knows how to use it. He does a big smile, and he knows he's upsetting you. And then he does the Shawn Michaels thing down into the ring. He's a great heel.
Well, Rollins was the babyface. And I thought it would be just the opposite in Hollywood.
Really?
I thought so because I would think Logan Paul, media influencer with his brother. You know what made them famous? I read.
Go on.
They were in Japan, and they went out in this forest, and they found a guy that had hung himself. Did you read that? You know that?
I remember that very clearly at the time. Yeah, there was a forest that's very well known for people committing suicide. I don't know if it's for religious reasons or spiritual reasons or whatever, but a lot of people there go to kill themselves, and they found like basically a fresh corpse there.
Sure did. So, and that's when they, because everybody has to find social media at one point. And I would just this is about 5 years ago, I guess, 6. And I knew it was there, but I was kind of getting into it, and I started reading about these guys, and then I read that, and so that actually put them on the map for me. Now they've done all this other stuff. Now they got into boxing, and they're upsetting the boxing people because the guys that fight them, they make more money fighting the Pauls on their setups than they made in championship fights under Don King and all the other guys. And what the Paul boys said, he said because they're stealing your money. They get first count, and they'll say, we'll pay you this, but they guarantee them, I don't know, a couple $1 million, I guess. And yeah, they go and fight.
Has there been a celebrity or anyone like this who comes into wrestling and is that good? I know Pat McAfee was excellent as well, but I mean, Logan Paul's just come in, he's come into a main event match essentially, and he's with Seth Rollins, who's one of the best in the world.
Well, he's a great athlete, but let me kind of back you up a little bit. How long do you think they've known about this match?
They'll have known about it for months. I don't know how long they would have trained for it, though. What do you think?
4 months.
You think they would have practiced 4 months on and off to get it down?
Off and on, yes, I do. Because this is a big stage. You can't go out there and do a Shane McMahon, break your leg. or pull you quad. You can't go out there and go, oh, oh, and you go down, because people are going to remember that. All the eyes of the world, especially during WrestleMania week, it's such an event, and it's in the culture now, all over the world. So you can't go out there and fall flat on your ass. Oh yeah, I think. I'll tell you another match I think they worked on a lot, and we'll talk about it in a minute. Mm-hmm. Rhea Ripley, Charlotte Flair, they worked on that one. They worked on the tag team match with the Usos and Sami and Kevin. They worked on that. I'm sure Roman and Cody worked on that one, because it's too big a showcase to not do that. So if they had to go down to Florida, they would go to Florida or wherever they would have to go. And they put time and they put effort in it. And I will say one thing about this new group of WWE guys. They're dedicated. And I think they want to go out there and actually it's like when you go out there and have a match, you go back to the back and you look at the guy standing there waiting to go out and you say, hey, top that.
I have a match nitpick for you, and I want you to tell me if you agree or not. It sort of reminded me of a few years ago when Shane McMahon and AJ Styles opened up one of the WrestleManias a few years ago. And at the time, Shane McMahon went toe-to-toe with AJ Styles, move for move, hold for hold. And I was thinking, Shane, you're like in your late 40s. But you've managed to book yourself into sort of being like a world-beating technician. And I'm not saying the same thing for this exactly, but Logan Paul seemed to out-wrestle Seth Rollins for a very long time before Seth sort of got his... You know what I mean? I felt like if you're going to like stun him, maybe for a couple of moves, fine. But then Seth, who's clearly the veteran and clearly got all the experience and is the better wrestler, should take over a bit earlier. Is that me being too nitpicky, Dutch?
No, it's not, but... in a fan's mind, let me put you back in a fan's mind. Mm-hmm. Logan Paul is an athlete. Mm-hmm. Shane McMahon is not. And when you saw him going toe-to-toe with AJ, you're saying, wait a minute. AJ is a world-class wrestler, like one of the top 10 in the world in execution, and you're staying right with him? That's not believable. And it's not. And you're not the only ones that thought that. Now, he made Shane look good, and Shane liked it. But to the wrestling fans, I think they did more damage than they did good. Did AJ win that match?
I think so. I hope. I hope so, yeah.
And Logan Paul is an athlete. They know that. They know he's a skateboarder. They know he's a boxer. They know this, that, and the other. So for him to actually hold his own, and they have said that, he's a natural to wrestling. They've said that on the air because he's made massive, massive strides in a short amount of time. And he goes in the ring. I'll say one thing about him. He's not afraid to do stuff.
No.
He's not afraid to do it. And which endears him to WWE fans. See, wrestling fans go through their whole life, and everybody listening to us today know what I'm talking about. And you bring up wrestling, they go, that wrestling, that bullshit. But if they had watched WrestleMania, some of those matches, you'd have to say, wow. I don't know. Because I had some friends over that came to visit my daughter, and they were watching it. And I was watching some of it, but I was on my computer, basically, and that's listening to it. No, they were watching Raw, and they were going nuts. Now, these are fans, and they're fans that, like every fan, you grow up hearing a few things when you're a kid. Take your vitamins, say your prayers, and wrestling's fake. Yeah, you just grow up with that. They said, nah, Was it that way in the UK?
They didn't tell me that when I was watching. Only when high school's different here. You start high school at 11 here. It was only when I went to high school that people started questioning it. Some people say, oh, it's fake. Why are you watching it? But I just didn't tell people when I was in, younger. But I didn't know. I didn't know till I was maybe not embarrassingly, about 11. And do you know who ruined it for me? The Rock.
Who?
The Rock ruined it for me, and I'll tell you exactly the match. So that guy, whatever happened to him? And he was in a ladder match with Triple H at SummerSlam 1998, and I remember I must have watched that tape 100 times, and then one time I just caught him throwing a kick that you could have parked a bus in that gap. I was like, well, congratulations, Rock, you ruined it for me.
Kevin Dunn wasn't there.
Yeah,
he would have covered that.
Oh yeah, he would have gone cut.
And then you're so dizzy, you got to go throw up and then come back. But they can watch this latest WrestleMania, and they have tightened it up so much. I hate to keep saying this line, they'll believe till you give them a reason to disbelieve. You were believing till they missed that kick for this bar.
Yeah.
Now, some of those kicks, especially the Usos throw, and I'm not a big fan of the super kicks. I like them. They look great till you throw too many of them. And it's not the Usos don't throw too many. Who does throw too many are the two brothers in AEW. What are their names?
Young Bucks.
The Young Bucks. It's like damn Super Kick City with them. It's kick. But guess what? They never beat nobody with a kick. You know, if you kept punching somebody, eventually you'd knock them out, wouldn't you? They can kick people, and yeah, they can continue to do things. That is what the separation of reality and fantasy is in wrestling. But, and I'll get to this in a minute, did you see Rhea Ripley and the Charlotte Flair move?
The German suplex you're going to talk about.
God,
I promise you we'll talk about it. I promise you we'll talk about it. Before we get off Logan Paul, the big highlight was at the end. They've got the dancing Prime energy drink bottle. I wrote it down and called it that it was going to be KSI. Did you know who KSI was?
I didn't know who he was.
Basically, he's another social media influencer, so yeah.
Social media influencer. And what's he do?
Influences on social media.
He influences people? Okay.
That's all I know. No, he did boxing. He did boxing with Jake Paul. That might have been both of their first boxing match ever. And then Jake Paul continued it. Yeah, I think so, yeah. And then KSI won, I think. And then Jake Paul carried on with it, and KSI not so much, or not as high profile. But as you say, like the most high-risk maneuver on maybe all of the WrestleManias was Logan Paul doing the jump on the table onto KSI. And the way it looked spectacular, but it looked very sort of low risk at the same time. It was very well managed risk-wise, it looked to me.
Well, the way they shot it, shooting up, he looked like a half mile away. And the way he shot it, he was shooting back over his shoulder like to get him coming down. And then, of course, but you could see that if you paid attention, Rollins had his hands on that so he could grab him right when he started to come. Boom. And as soon as he looked away, he was going to pull him. Well-timed. Well-timed.
Yeah, and also with KSI, he had that really... I bet he had like padding under it as well, but like a very padded, the bottle, the energy drink outfit as well. So it looked fairly safe. Who? KSI?
Yeah.
He's a black guy, always wears a bandana.
Okay. That tells me a lot.
No, fair enough. We will move on. Where am I going to move on to? I've not even got the page sorted here, Dutch, for goodness sake. Are we going to talk about this? Damage Control versus Trish Stratus, Lita, and Becky Lynch. What were your feelings on this?
It was passable. You just had some legends in there. Lita, I think she was blown up first time she got in the ring. And there's a purpose for having those girls there. That's fine, I guess. But who did they beat in that? Bayley?
I can't remember who got pinned, but it was Becky, Bayley, and two others. I didn't even write the names down.
Well, Bayley said something on Twitter or something like, "Every great love story must end," or something. a little bit of a cryptic tweet.
Yeah, I just said
I don't know
Becky
what.
Bailey. That's not the right. That's Becky Lynch, isn't it? Bailey something and two others. But yeah, what was it? Falling out of love, was it?
Yeah, every great love story comes to an end. I don't know what that means.
I don't know what that means either. Bailey, here we go. I didn't even mean to click on that. But yeah, Lita did look, and she seemed to be in the majority of the match as well, but she seemed really, really struggling with movement.
Well, wrestling's not the easiest thing in the world to do. You gotta stay in shape for it.
Yeah.
I mean, Trish looked a lot better than Lita, though.
Yeah, Trish looked great.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway.
You know who looked great during the Hall of Fame was Stacy Keibler.
Yeah, she hasn't aged a day.
No, she looked great. And somebody asked me, they said, what qualifies her to be in the Hall of Fame? I said, I don't know. You tell me. Other than she's a good-looking woman. But let me tell you this. Wrestling, she couldn't wrestle worth a crap. She couldn't talk worth a crap. She looked good. And she just managed to, she was on air a lot because of her looks. You could almost go into any bar, not any bar, but most bars on a Friday and Saturday night and find a woman that looks as good.
No, Stacy's exceptional. I mean, she's gorgeous.
No,
She's gorgeous, exceptional.
You could go to any college, anywhere in the world, and find a woman who looked as good. Oh, she has a nice mouth. Pretty woman. I'm not saying that.
I watched Pretty Woman the other day, in fact.
Put anybody in that role.
Yeah. Dutch, I watched Pretty Woman the other day, in fact. Have you seen it?
And yeah, I've seen that.
Yeah, it's sort of half terrible, but half heartwarming as well. Richard Gere's weird. All right, we're going to move on then. And this is the big match that we're... to be honest, best match of the night for me. I think you disagree. I think most people disagree. Dominik Mysterio versus Rey Mysterio. I thought that was the best match of the night.
Okay. It was good. Good entrance. Good throwback to Eddie Guerrero. They got that in there. And Dominik getting out of the prison van. That was good. And then the lowrider with Snoop. That was good. Then the family was at ringside. And the connection to this is it's a smart-ass brother or a smart-ass son that everybody can see that he needs his attitude adjusted. And I was thinking, and I had read that Rey wanted to, I think Rey down deep wanted to kind of do the honors for him. And I think they overruled him there. They said, I think our business kind of will overrule your personal feelings because we got to think of our business before we think of your personal feelings. And they said that in a nice way. And they wanted him to get the win over Dominik with a little bit of help from those other two guys, and then Bad Bunny. And they were setting that up for Puerto Rico, which they will sell out there on May the 6th.
They already are sold out, I believe.
Are they?
Yeah, I think so.
Well, I've seen that building, huge building, seats about 20,000, maybe 19 something, but pretty close to 20,000. And those people are loud because they take wrestling seriously in Puerto Rico. They got three sports there: baseball, wrestling, and politics. They take all that seriously. When they have an election, people actually fight in the streets. If they argue over a candidate, they just start fighting. They got to bring all the police out on all the election day and station them all around the voting booths. Now, not everywhere, but those elections get hot because I don't know what kind of interviews they do to get people so mad and the candidates so mad at each other. But it is serious. And I'm glad Puerto Rico was getting the attention because that'll be a great event for them. I heard also that the Puerto Rican Tourism Society or Association gave WWE a $1.5 million tax break.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, definitely.
To get them in there, because they can't get this publicity and hit this many people.
Yeah.
As cheap as that is.
Hey, well, you saw on WrestleMania all the Backlash adverts, and they said, and it wasn't just Backlash; it was have a look at these beautiful beaches and da da da. I mean, the tourism board's heavy on it.
Oh, beautiful beaches! They do have that. It's all around the island. That's where I lived in Puerto Rico, because when I was there, you could only live in a couple of places, especially if you wrestled. Because people just damn bomb your house. I mean, they'd throw things at you and throw rocks at you and everything else. So I would live with a tourist section. It was called, not Bayamon. Isla Verde is a tourist section. And Condado, a place called Condado. And that's the tourist sections. And it's about 10 minutes from the airport. But to get to Condado, from the airport, you got to drive through this ghetto, kind of. You're on a 4-lane, so you're not really in it. It looks rough in there. But that's the only place you can stay. So, but I'm glad they're going to Puerto Rico, and I'm glad the Puerto Rican people get to see these WWE stars. They hadn't been there in like 10, 12 years.
Yeah, it's been a while. Do you know, that's one of the few Caribbean islands I didn't go to on my little sojourn. I went to 9. And Puerto Rico was not one of them, but I'd love to go.
Well, Puerto Rico, let me tell you this, watch where you go, because they run, because it's a U.S. Commonwealth. It's not a state. It's a Commonwealth. Mm-hmm. And but they're citizens of the U.S. And the only thing that stops them from being full citizens is they don't have the right to vote in a U.S. election for president, because I don't think they pay U.S. taxes. They pay state taxes. They don't pay U.S. or it's something like that. But watch where you go, because they run a lot of drugs through there from South America and those Caribbean islands, and they go through Puerto Rico because that's a direct link to the United States.
Florida and that kind of thing. We will move on. I said that this was my favourite match, Dominik Mysterio, I've written mystery here by accident, versus Rey Mysterio. I don't think you agreed, because you thought the best match of the night, I think you told me, was Charlotte versus Rhea Ripley.
Well, let me explain my position on that. I'm not a big fan of Charlotte Flair, and I thought she got there is because of nepotism, which she did. But she's had to stay there through talent. And I never thought she had the talent that she displayed against Rhea Ripley. And I think Rhea, that's her name, Rhea Ripley?
Yep.
Or Rey Ripley?
No, Rhea.
But both these girls are tall, kind of tall. And it started slow, but it developed into such a way that I could see that Charlotte took a lot of instruction from her father, and she paced this match. And Rhea Ripley's only 26, and I don't think she's really worked with talent the caliber of Charlotte. And going into the match, I didn't have high expectations for it, but they surprised me. And at the end, I had to admit, that's probably it was hands down the greatest, female match or ladies match I've ever seen. And they picked the right stage to do it on. And it was the right time to switch the belt from Charlotte to Rhea. And I think they're going to reap benefits from it for a long time, because she's going to be the standalone heel. And I think Charlotte will, of course, now since Rhea has it, Charlotte will be a babyface, so they'll go around again. And I wouldn't mind seeing that match again. The one move in there, I'm sitting there watching it like this, because I didn't have a cigar, and I'm going, yeah, it's a good match, really good match, good match. And all of a sudden, I saw her reach around for that belly to back suplex. And I've run this back 10 times. And when she took her, she just got her to here and let her go. And Charlotte went up, did the 360, boom, not quite, and landed on her nose. And the reason said, well, she threw it too hard and she let her go too late. No, what happened was Charlotte wanted to clear too, so she pushed. And when she pushed, Rhea took her. And when you're pushing and both of you are pushing at the same time, you're going to go somewhere. And she went over. Even the referee was so concerned, she looked down and said, are you okay? Now, wasn't that the match that the WWE set a record in? All the participants were female?
Yes. But
the referee was female. The announcer was female. The two opponents were female.
Who's the announcer?
Some
girl. I was thinking the commentator. Sorry, I'm busting your train of thought here.
But those girls are really, really, and I'm really proud of Rhea Ripley because now she's really going to get some heat. And her and Dominik together should be heat magnets. I mean, if they walk out together, because I think the whole crowd is they're going to be some hot heels. Roman is hot. Gunther is hot. Rhea and Dominik's hot. And if you got three hot heels like that, you don't need anybody else. That's your card. If you go into a town with 6 matches, they'll be in 3 or 4.
Should it have been the main event, do you think?
I think the main event, I think everybody thought the tag match would go last, even the fans. I would have put it, and the reason I don't think they put the girls last was the same doubts I had. I didn't know how the people would react to it. Mm-hmm. Because I didn't think, and Charlotte didn't have that much heat going in. Rhea didn't either. It just turned out to be a hell of a matchup. But they knew that the Usos had heat, and they knew that Kevin and Sami they loved them. So let's put them on last, and let's end night one on a real hell of a banger, and the people are happy. And they did it the right way.
With Rhea, I really like her presentation, but I especially what I like about Rhea is she looks like a wrestler. She's in great shape, but she's like thick. She's got muscle. She looks like she could really do some damage. And
what
also,
do you think she weighs?
I would never comment on a lady's weight. Dutch.
Oh, I would.
Oh, go on then.
I think she's 160 or maybe more. She got big legs.
She's tall as well, isn't she? Like 5'9" or something. And
she looks like a. Hey, if I was a guy still back in my youth, and is in a dark alley, and she says, "Do you want to fight?" I'd say, "Hell no." I just go the other way. I'm very impressed by her.
Yeah.
And she's only 26 too.
Yeah, but she's 5'9" as well. But also, she looks so much bigger than Charlotte. And one of the reasons is that apparently Charlotte is cutting weight for a bodybuilding something or other competition in the summer. So she's slimming down, and Rhea's looking massive next to her as well. So it's got that good size dynamic, even though they're both tall.
So she's going for a bodybuilding contest.
Yes.
Not a weightlifting contest.
No.
Okay.
Or like, what do they call it? Like fitness contest. Well, I don't know, whatever it is. Anyway, we are going to get to the main event of night one. Oh, actually, I wanted to make mention of this. Corey Graves, he came out with 2 really cretinous lines while he was commentating. I'm getting more annoyed by Corey every day. Charlotte managed to lift her left shoulder up, which may be the only reason this match still goes on. Well, obviously. And then right after he says, this is quite literally a golden opportunity for Rhea Ripley. One thing I can't stand, Dutch, is people who use the word literally and don't know what it means.
Yeah. I've never liked Corey Graves. I don't think he's a good announcer. To me, he's dry. He's never funny. He's not even really likable, I don't think. And I've met him, and he was okay to me. But as he comes across, he's just the guy sitting there. See, I miss the guys like Lawler. I miss the guys like Heenan. I miss those guys who go out there, and when it's time to make sense, they make sense. But when it's time to be kind of cute and funny, they know when to do it. I think Lawler was stupid when he kept doing the puppies, but that was Vince. He liked for him to do it. Like Vince, when he would always tell me, or the agents would always tell me, when you go out there and you talk about Alberto, say it like you do, Alberto del Rio. He loved that. And they said, always do this. Because I said, they'd all be sneaking across the border. And he would laugh every time I do it. So every time I went out there, they said, make sure you do those two things. And they said, we don't care what else you say. Just get that in and Vince will be happy.
Before we get to the main event, because we have a sort of quote-unquote impromptu match, in quotation marks, we have an Austin Theory promo, and then we go to The Miz and Snoop Dogg. 80,497 is the claimed attendance. It's probably for both nights more around 67, 68. But anyway, Vince McMahon himself has said that the attendance is for entertainment purposes only, these numbers.
Well, the attendance in the stadium is 75,000. Most of those seats were filled, except the end zone where the big deal is. But they have all those seats on the floor. So they were close to that. Yeah. But I know you're getting to this thing about the Miz and the McAfee.
Yep.
I wasn't that entertained by it. I think it's stupid. Miz, when he comes on, I turn my TV off. I don't turn it off, but I don't listen to it because you can't even take him seriously. And he's not that funny. He's got that show on TV. What's the name of the show he has?
Oh, with his wife.
What's the name of that?
Miz and Mrs. something like that.
And I've watched the show. It's okay. It's just one of those. It's if you miss it, you don't miss anything. But the Miz, for me to take him seriously. And I've never taken him seriously, even when he was in something serious. I don't know what it was. I don't know what it is, but I don't much care for him.
I've heard this theory, and it's a good theory, is The Miz is a very good talker, but being a good talker doesn't necessarily translate into being a good promo who can sell tickets.
I don't think he could sell you many tickets. I know, and they put him on a lot of talk segments, like a round table or something. He's pretty good, pretty decent in that. But yet I don't much care for Miz.
For the Miz, I think it's maybe it's like an Austin Theory thing in the sense that that Vince really loves him, but it seems like Vince McMahon himself scripts every single word and Miz recites it to every single. There doesn't seem to be any genuine feeling in anything or anything that he's believing. He also always repeats, "I'm a 2-time Grand Slam champion," blah 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 blah, and it's not annoying in the right way, if you know what I mean.
I know exactly what you mean because I've listened to him more times than I care to remember.
Yeah. Anyway, Pat McAfee comes out, and then there's like a brief thing, and Pat McAfee wins. Right, and then we'll get to the main event of day one, the Usos versus Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens.
Great match. I'm glad they put it on last. The Usos came first. Didn't the Usos come first or no?
I can't even remember. It was 2 days ago. What? Who had the entrance first?
Yeah, who had the entrance first?
Yeah, the Usos came out first because they were I remember thinking because they were the champions, but they came out first, yeah.
And then when Sami and Kevin hit, the place went nuts. I think they played Kevin first, and then Sami came last. So what's that tell you? Because Sami was the key to the story.
Mm-hmm.
It all revolved around Sami. Now, to think where he came from getting beat on SmackDown every week to all of a sudden headlining WrestleMania, and you tell me that the formula doesn't work? I mean, you're not telling me. But they told this story, and they told it in such a way with patience. And the people, they love Sami because he is the ultimate underdog. Literally, remember that you told me a while ago about. He's the ultimate babyface, and he doesn't have a big body. He doesn't have big, massive arms or chest or legs. He looks like the guy who works down at the convenience store, really. Got the beard and the hair, but the people love him. And when he gets in the ring, he is talented, and they wanted him to win because everybody knows somebody like Sami Zayn, because he's funny and he has feelings. And I've told people, when you get them in the heart, you got them. After that match, they showed the crowd. Some people in the crowd were crying. I mean, that's not tears of anguish. It's tears of joy. Because all of a sudden, you've hit that heart. And when was the last time that happened in WWE?
Do you know when I think it was? Is when Daniel Bryan retired.
Probably. Because they wanted him to win so bad, or to do well. But the thing with Daniel Bryan is it was a shoot. They didn't think he was big enough to do it.
But I mean, so was this. So was the Sami Zayn thing to a point.
Yeah, but see, now you have a different creative. Before it was Vince, and Vince was not assured that Daniel Bryan is the guy he wanted representing the company. But here, I don't think it matters that much, because they have Roman or Cody, if Cody had won, representing the company. And I think that's very good representatives, either one of them. And Sami he got in there because the people got their wish. They supported him so much. And see, in WWE, they listen to more than just the crowd. You know what they listen to? I'll show you. Wait a minute. They listen to this. Merchandise reports. And that merchandise report tells them everything they need to know. Because that merchandise for Sami Zayn was flying off the shelves. They'd reorder and reorder and reorder, and it would still sell. So they look at that and they went, my God, this is the Undertaker pace. This is Rock pace. This is Triple H pace. And, if somebody buys the merchandise, and I don't know what they're paying Sami Zayn, but for this WrestleMania appearance, if the house was $10 million, I don't know what he should have gotten. But somebody made some big-ass paydays out of that. But what figures into that payoff is how much money they made off his merchandise.
Mm-hmm.
WWE talent doesn't get as much off merchandise as you think they should.
Something like 50 cents per T-shirt, maybe?
It's embarrassing. They told me what they get. Not that much, because I think William Regal told me one time he wrote a book, and it sold fairly well. And I said, what were your royalties on that? He said, mate, not nowhere where I thought it would be or where you think it would be. They take about 90% of the royalties, or more, or not more, but 85 to 90% they take. Now, of course, they do a deal where they print the book, they do this, and they do that. But still, it ought to be more than a dollar a book, I would think. Because especially with the ways they have book publishing now, I put out 2 books. I published them myself. Not myself, but what they call self-publishing. And say out of a $20 book, I would get like, I'll say a $25 book, I'd get like $12. But they would print it and ship it, and then I still get about $11 or $12. Mm-hmm. And that's not bad. I mean, but I think still they look at those merchandise numbers and see what they are, and then they know exactly what they need to know. Mm-hmm. If the people are going to buy merchandise, they're going to buy tickets. And it's not a bad theory.
No. You're obviously very closely associated with Memphis, and Memphis was very big on tag team wrestling. Quite a few territories were, like Mid-Atlantic and stuff. But yep. With, did you ever think you'd see in the day WWE putting on in a main event, once again, a tag team match and giving it time and it being a slow burner with lots of selling and lots of drama? It seems so on WWE. But in a good way.
Well, yeah, but it shows you the change in creative. WWE put that match in the ring, and they said, guys, and I asked the other guy this morning, I was talking to him, how long do you think they've been working on this match?
Those, I mean, I don't know, a few weeks maybe?
I'd say about 4 months. And they got it down to a science. And they got it down to a science is because they understand the crowds. They understand their fans. They have read, and I keep saying this, the temperature of the room, what the fans like, what they don't, what they're pop to, what they want. And they have talked about this amongst themselves for months. And now, especially when they get to WrestleMania, they just go up to themselves, and they'll have a place where the guys, the talent, can get into a ring and walk through it. But see, they have walked through this so much, they know it by heart. I bet you 20 years from now, they'll probably be able to remember exactly what they did. They won't be able to do it, but they can remember what they did. And for Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens to main event one night at WrestleMania, they'll never top that. They'll never top it. So it's, and I've said this before, Sami Zayn, he probably can't describe the thrill or the chills in his body when he walked out there on that ramp and those people all stood up for him. 80,000 people standing up for you. And he'll never forget that. Mm-hmm. And I've said if they can take that, say Pfizer, a pharmaceutical company, if they could manufacture that feeling, I mean, they could cure cancer tomorrow. Mm-hmm. If they could, and that'd be the hottest selling drug they would have. If you could just manufacture that feeling for 10 minutes. And it's a great feeling to have. And they did a great job at it. Because when the time come to perform, they were there. They were ready.
You watched night 2, didn't you?
I did watch it.
Good. Right, we'll go to night 2 then. We'll make it a little snappier and a little quicker, I suppose. Brock Lesnar versus Omos. Any interest? I actually quite liked it. It's simple.
I liked it because somebody said, oh, Omos is going to beat Brock. I said, there ain't no way. Because Brock already turned down Bray Wyatt. Mm-hmm. Because Bray Wyatt was I was more interested in Omos than I was in Bray Wyatt and Brock. I really was. Because what's Bray Wyatt going to do? He's already blown his wad, I think. That's why I don't think he's hurt. I think his feelings are hurt. Because he went out there and they fired his writer, got rid of his writer, I heard. because that story with Bray is going nowhere. Nowhere. And I don't even think Triple H can figure this out, because you're dealing with it's not believable at all. So Bray Wyatt, Brock Lesnar knew that if he went out there and he beat Bray Wyatt, and I may have said this before, well, he didn't beat anybody. Bray Wyatt beating him, that ain't happening, period. But still, he didn't really have an opponent. Omos, at least Omos was a foot taller and 100 pounds heavier. And I could tell you exactly when that match started, who was going to go over it. Because Omos took the upper hand. And I actually thought Brock actually did pretty good with him. Because you thought it was you thought it was he may have a chance, and he did. He bounced Brock around a little bit. So he had a chance. And Brock did that. It's an old saying in wrestling: make your opponent look credible. Make him look like he belongs in the same ring as you do. And that's what that's what the guy that's getting a push and like main eventer, no matter who they put you in a ring with, have him do something to you to make him look like he does have a chance maybe to win this thing. But almost, what move did he give him? The F5, right?
Brock eventually gave Omos the F5, yes, for the win.
And he was selling his back, and
Brock Lesnar doesn't get. I actually think like Brock Lesnar and Hulk Hogan have got something in common. They're both big men who are very, very good at being believably in trouble, at selling their injuries and stuff. I think they're both very good at it and don't really get many props for it.
Well, he did a good job, because when he sold his back, I'm thinking then, well, okay, if he does go over, it's going to be because Brock's back gave out, which is believable. But then again, I said, oh, shut up. He almost ain't beat Brock Lesnar. I'm trying to fool myself here. But anyway, not a bad match.
Yeah.
Not a bad one.
Women's showcase match, we even bother talking about it. Just highly choreographed. I didn't think it was very good.
Who was in this one? Was it the Ronda Rousey one?
It was the Ronda Rousey one. See, most people hate Ronda Rousey. I still really like Ronda.
I would like to have Ronda standing right in front of me right now and I'd open hand slap her.
Any reason?
Then she'd stretch me. Oh. Well, no, she came out earlier in the week and says that WWE, with those octogenarians, like the 80-year-old guys, they don't know what it's like to be hip and this and that and the other. And I'm thinking, shut up, Ronda. You can't do it on your own, so listen to somebody. And the octogenarians, I think she was talking about Vince, maybe. I don't know. There's nobody there that's 80, close to 80, except Vince.
Well, Vince is now 35. Vince McMahon's now 35 again.
Maybe, and Ronda in the match, she got in at the finish, and that's it. She didn't get in anywhere else. Was she hurt?
Yeah, broken arm.
How'd she break her arm in a worked match?
That I don't know. But, I mean, if we've learned anything from Tony Khan and CM Punk, is that she wasn't wrestling very much, so she didn't have to be cleared.
Oh, yeah, that's it. That's right. Listen, if you work hurt, and if you're not cleared, and they know you're hurt, you don't have to be cleared, and you get hurt, you know what happens?
Lawsuit.
Because they cleared you.
We will move on. Judgment Day ad. Gunther versus Sheamus versus Drew McIntyre. Now, you watched the clash at the castle between Gunther and Drew. Gunther and Sheamus, apologies. And how did this one compare to that match?
Well, again, it's a three-way. But these guys, they did it well. And Gunther, at one time, right before the finish, he was out of the ring a long time. And then he came back in, broke up the pin, and then didn't he power bomb Sheamus onto McIntyre?
Yep.
And then he rolled him off, and then he pinned McIntyre.
No, then he powerbombed McIntyre as well, so pretty dominant win, yeah.
Wasn't a bad finish. And really, if I was going to lose myself, that'd been a good finish. Because I get the guy 260 pounds power bombed on me, then I get power bombed. That's enough to beat me. So, good match. Gunther is a guy. If they stay behind him, they're going to have some business on him. Big time. I saw that right when I'd heard he used to be called Walter, didn't he?
He used to be called Walter, all capitalized, like WALTER. And then he turned into Gunther, and then I think at the time people were sort of raising an eyebrow. But I think Gunther's actually sort of stuck quite well, hasn't it?
Oh, yeah. Well, he has that Nazi look to him. And the other two guys, he's from Austria, right?
No, I think he's I'll double check that, but I think Walter Gunther's German.
Well, he does, and that's what we're lacking in pro wrestling now. It's kind of a stereotype like that.
He's Austrian. Sorry, you were right.
Damn right, I was right. But I think that's what we're missing in wrestling a little bit now. People are afraid to, say the Japanese people come out there, they don't want to do other than the, what's him, Asuka?
Yeah.
Asuka does it. And it's colorful, and it's fun, and you like her. And Gunther comes out there and stands like a Nazi stormtrooper, but yet there's nothing to connect him other than the way he looks and the way he stands. But still, it's staring you right in the face. And you know this guy, you just don't like him. That's the way the old heels used to come out. You know, they come out, you know, you got these big old burly guys and they're snarling. You don't like them. And then you have your babyface guys come to, oh, hey, high five. That's what I've criticized WWE before, is because when they come out of the chute, even the heels are laughing and waving and, wait a minute, people are supposed to dislike you. So you got to be an asshole from the gate to the ring during the match and leaving and going back. But I don't know who told them to smile and carry on. Ronda used to do that, even when she didn't want people to like her. And they had her as a babyface. She's a horrible babyface. But she is a much more believable heel. Oh, you want to kind of kill her too.
Let me ask you this: with Gunther, how would you? Because keep in mind, this is 2023. We can't be goose stepping from the Ministry of Silly Walks and wearing swastikas and a big skull on your military hat kind of thing. But how would you update? Like, how would you make him more threatening to look at? You know, maybe like a leather trench coat or something. How would you sort of update it for 2023 to be more nationalistic?
Well, he has that big red coat, and red is a sign of danger. I don't know if you could give him any type of headgear that would suggest that. I don't know.
Big spike out the top, maybe.
Or what? You can't do that. But I think they've done just enough to get the message across. Less is more. You don't got to paint him out like a Nazi stormtrooper, because if you know he's there. Now, the announcers don't cover that, but guess who does cover it? Parents and fans. They tell each other. And it's like, it's not a secret, but see, if WWE told them, their advertisers would go nuts. You can't do that because that opens them up for, oh, we need to cancel you, we'll cancel that. But less is more. like I said, Vince looked like that little mustache. He looked like a villain in a James Cagney in a Humphrey Bogart movie in 1937. Yeah, and that's what he looks like. And his two little buddies with him. One of his name? I can't remember their names. The tag team. Who are they?
I can't remember.
I
But
can't remember.
he's got
their
little
name.
flunkies, which is good as well.
Yeah, and they come out there and they put their hands behind them. And see, American military people don't do that. Only the Europeans do that.
I'm going to try and look.
What's
now.
their names?
It's going to bug me now. Moss Ludwig Kaiser's one of them.
Are you talking?
Can you hear me? One sec. Okay, my audio went off 2 seconds then. Yeah, Ludwig Kaiser and someone else.
Yeah, Kaiser and his buddy. Kaiser 2. 1 and 2.
Yeah.
But again, Gunther, I picked him out his first time I saw him. And when they put him in this 3-way, I said, well, Gunther has to go over in this one because he's their standby heel. And if something happened to Roman, guess where Gunther's going? Right into spot, right up. Now, if, let's say, Cody beat Roman, which he will at some point, Gunther is going up, going up, going up. And then Gunther will go up against Cody, big pay-per-view, maybe WrestleMania next year, maybe. And he'll take the belt. Now, here we go. Cody climbing that hill again. So as long as they can keep him in constant turmoil, constant struggle, and a fight, they got him. And Cody is a good one to play that role.
Belair versus Asuka for the Raw Women's title. What do you think?
Good match. They had some really good stuff in there. But I actually thought, I missed the calls on night 2. I got Gunther right, but I missed this one. I thought they would switch it. And I think they should switch it. I still think that. But going back to my standby phrase, they got 51 weeks left in the year to fix mistakes they made here, which they didn't make many.
We'll move on then, because this is going to be my favourite. The Miz and Snoop Dogg turn up again. And Snoop's like, whoa, my bad that I put you in that match with Pat McAfee.
Yeah.
And then...
my bad. Yo.
And then
he said, I got another surprise for you, something
like that. Hey, let's have a match today then as well. And wouldn't you know who won the pony? Shane McMahon walks skips out.
And I thought that's the first red flag that I had that Vince is back in the saddle. Here he comes. He got to get his son out there. And of course, it's just a way to get his son a payday. Is bring him out there.
He doesn't need a payday. He got paid $880-something thousand last year, and he was fired by January.
That's what he made for the year?
He made close to $1 million after that Royal Rumble debacle where he tried to put himself over everybody.
Well, I will say one thing with Vince. Vince did inject himself in that. That's not happening. He did do that, as he should have done. But they had to get him on the card. Vince is back in power again with the new company. Nobody knows it. And I'm sitting back and I go, wait a minute. I damn sure didn't expect to see Shane McMahon on WrestleMania 39. So I'm watching it, and he goes down and he's doing he's bebopping along and woo, and he got in the ring. And I shouldn't laugh. Oh, him and Miz got into it. He shot him in. He dropped down. He come off. He did the leapfrog, and when he come down, boom, he's done. That quad muscle popped. I thought he tore his knee out, but you told me he pulled his quad, and he's gone. Now he's done. And thanks to Snoop and thanks to Miz, they finished it up 1, 2, 3, and it was actually smooth after that. It's almost like they planned it. It was so smooth. But you'd have to wrap up something like that because Miz that's an easy call anyway. He knows how it's going to end. So Snoop, you knocked me out. Boom, we'll go. And I saw them carting. This is video later. I saw them carting out.
I don't know if you can see that.
I'm not laughing. I am not laughing.
Sorry, my camera's not as good, so.
But I am kind of laughing. His WrestleMania moment lasted about 10 seconds.
It was memorable. It was memorable.
And a lot of people, they thought he broke his leg.
I thought he did.
People thought it was planned. And I'm thinking, no, I don't think this is, it looks too, I don't know, it was just chunky. And so when they carted him out, then you said, well, he messed up. He'll be known for that forever.
I'll admit, about this point, I was playing my phone a bit and half looking up, and he did the leapfrog, and then he sort of did this when he landed down. His leg just went. It just seemed like
it out again. I like the mist circling around like a buzzard. Then I guess, well, the referee found out he's hurt. Okay, let's finish him.
Would you put the boots to him? Would you put the boots to him? If you saw that and he went down, would you just instinctively start kicking him like very, very lightly?
Well, I wouldn't. Because first of all, he's the boss's kid. That's one thing. And if he is legitimately hurt, I don't want to add any more hurt to it. Because he's already down. So I think I would have done just like Miz did. He just circled around to the Snoop Dogg popped him. And actually, that punch that Snoop Dogg threw looked great. And down he went. Bam.
What looked better, the punch or the people's elbow? It was so funny because he wasn't even moving the ropes when he went in.
Well, the people's elbow was... Actually, he landed it. He landed it pretty well. But, the punch looked so good, you thought he was knocked out. Dropped the elbow. It was like a little wink to Rock. And it worked. It did work.
We've got a few more matches then, and then we will shut down this podcast. And Edge versus Demon Finn Balor.
Only thing, I wasn't into that match too much. I don't like the hell in the cell, unless they really got a really, really red hot feud, which I don't think it was red hot enough for this. The only thing I remember is Balor getting busted open. Did you see that cut on his head?
I am getting ever so more squeamish in my dotage.
It was from here to here.
I saw the replay, and he just like he put his hands up, and just every rung of that ladder went straight through. And,
yep.
Amazing.
And the edge, I guess one of the railings caught him here. Because when they had the doctor in there, they were blood all over the place. They must have stitched him up pretty fast.
Do you know what they did, supposedly? Is that they stapled him at ringside.
That's what they do.
Amazing.
They go, you know what they do first? Well, I've used it before. What it does, it glues it shut. I forgot the name of it, but I've used it before. So boxers use it too. If they get cut, they'll put it on it to stop it.
I mean, they used to use like Vaseline, didn't they?
Well, Vaseline was to make the gloves slide off. That's what they would do. But this would make the two sides of the wound kind of join together. Then you staple it. And that'll work for, I don't know, 10 minutes maybe. But he stopped bleeding after that. Head wounds don't sometimes, once you hit it, it doesn't bleed a lot after that. I don't know why. It's like getting cut on the arm. Unless you hit an artery or something, it doesn't bleed much. But they finished it up, and it was an okay match. But I don't like those Hell in the Cells too much unless there's really a story behind it.
Yeah, with the cut, like when immediately I thought, how can he tell he's cut? He's covered in face paint and it's black face paint. How could they even tell? And that's when I thought, after 2 minutes of absolutely nothing happening, that's when I thought, man, that really must be a big cut if they're pausing that.
The doctor came in.
Yeah. What do you think about these doctors coming in, like stopping the match for blood these days?
They almost have to, because if they don't, and it is a serious injury, and they don't stop it, that becomes a legal issue. So I would rather them go in there and do something, even if it's stopping it. The guy's health is not worth the match. All the fans will agree to that. AEW might need to adopt that, because they've had some guys really, really get hurt, and they don't really stop the match. They just keep it going and work around it. But that guy, that Dante Martin, who we talked about, broke his leg, they need to stop that.
Yeah, maybe they should have a doctor come in and stop people from doing stupid things before they do them. Maybe that might, like some images of saying, look, this is what could happen to you if you do this thing.
Blow a whistle, throw a flag, because you're thinking about doing something stupid. And then just make them get out. They go all the way to the ladder and he's jumping off and there's a tweet. Get down. And he goes down. And you got to throw the flag like they do in soccer. How many flags do they throw in soccer before they kick you out? 2?
Well, they don't throw any. They show you a card, not a flag.
Okay. And then when they show a red one, you're out.
Yeah, well, it can be one of two things. You can show 2 yellows, and that accumulates into a red, and you're out, or they can show a straight red for an egregious offence. I just want to mention one more thing about the match. Is halfway through the match, while both Edge and Finn Balor were down, the camera panned out across the crowd, and then a great big advert for Russell Crowe's new film, The Pope's Exorcist, or whatever it's called, came on. And the crowd booed vociferously. And it's like, I've never seen an advert interrupt a wrestling match before.
Oh, they got hot at that.
Yeah, rightly so.
They were saying, show us what's in the ring. Don't show us. We can see that anytime. Oh, wrestling fans, that's why you got to love them. Because they will let you know. They'll let you know what they like. And that's why I like live fans, because if you listen to them, which Triple H is, apparently, he knows exactly what they're wanting.
Does my video to you look like a hostage video?
Well, it does look like you've been taken by the, who are those hostages in Afghanistan or whatever, what they're called?
Al-Qaeda. No, not Al-Qaeda. ISIS.
ISIS. That's what you look like. You just need to put your arms behind you.
and read out a carefully prepared statement. Like,
oh, yeah. That was a willing statement.
Okay, let's go straight to the... Oh, actually, it does a Hall of Fame recap. Stacey Keibler, Tori inducted. Andy Kaufman, Jerry Lawler did a video. Jimmy Hart inducted. Timmy White, APA induct. And his brothers accept the award on his behalf. The Great Muta, Ric Flair inducted. I also want to bring this up because we can never resist a moment to mention something about Ric Flair, is that he called Muta the greatest Japanese wrestler he ever wrestled, which was exactly what he said about Fujinami when he inducted Fujinami in 2015. And Rey Mysterio, Conan inducted, as I always say, Conan, friend of the show, but he was the best. He actually did a really good job, and he whipped up the crowd and everything, so,
Well, first of all, he's in L.A. That L.A. was probably half Hispanic, I would say, or maybe more. And Conan is very nationalistic toward the Hispanics. So he talked to them like he would talk to them on the street. He's a good talker. He's a great talker. And they understood what he was talking about. And he was talking about Ray too. Ray's a hero. And Conan was the one who brought him down. A little bitty type. He was a kid. And he brought him down there and he gave him the shot. And Conan was the right one to induct him. Because I don't think who else would really have the background with Rey other than Conan. And he's a great talker in English and in Spanish. Personal and heartfelt in those speeches like that. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Is my video frozen again by any chance?
No, you're okay.
Good. Right, well, let's rush to the main event before this computer basically turns into radioactive waste and melts through the floor.
What I heard about Flair was WWE didn't much appreciate him mentioning Sting.
Oh, really?
Because Sting works for AEW.
Yeah.
And they were very happy with Conan's. This is what I read. I don't know. They're very happy with Conan's induction speech. Not so pleased with Flair's.
Well, with Sting being in AEW, I'm stealing a line off Eric Bischoff here, but being hired by AEW is often the witness protection program for wrestlers because they'll get hired and you'll just never see him.
Oh yeah.
Right, let's do the main events before, as I say, my computer turns to radioactive waste and just dissolves. Roman Reigns versus Cody Rhodes. Let's not do the whole match. I mean, it's a very good match, very slow-paced, a proper main event of WrestleMania, but Roman Reigns won. Where do you stand on that?
Well, all my barometers all pointed to Cody. Apparently, all barometers pointed to Cody and the fans. So, and I expected some outside interference, but I expected actually Cody to overcome all that and still come out victorious. So the Roman win, it didn't shock me, but it surprised me. But I go back to what Triple H said at the scrum. The story continues.
Scrum, your favorite word.
Scrum. That sounds a little nasty to me, but the scrum. But he says the story never ends and the story never finishes. So, and I can see why they did this. They invested 3 years into Roman Reigns, and the first year was rocky because he wasn't getting over and not like they thought he would. And then all of a sudden he kind of caught fire a little bit. Now he's red hot. So they're saying, why throw all this away? And it wasn't really throwing it away, but they got to keep it in a position where people are dying to see him lose. And they didn't give that to him. So, and a lot of people are blaming this on Vince already. That Vince was probably the cause. I don't think so. Because I think Triple H thinks in his head, and rightfully so, that they have worked so hard to get this guy here. They're not going to give it all the way on Cody's first try. Cody needs to struggle and fight and become, like the Sami Zayn. Sami Zayn fought, and now Cody needs to fight. And I think it'll get over. And where it leads, I don't have any idea. That's why I watch it like a fan too, because I want them to take me on this journey, and I want to go with them.
There's a comparison that's been brought up a couple of times over the last couple of days that I've read, is that this was a bit before your time in the WWF run, but in 93, Lex Luger defeated Yokozuna at SummerSlam 93 by count-out. And this was when he was doing the Lex Express and the bus around the country for 2 months straight. And then he won by DQ, but he didn't win the title. And then afterwards, it just took all the steam out of Lex. Probably, Lex took steam out of himself, really, by not being Hulk Hogan. But there's still a finite amount of time to sort of catch the wave on this.
Well, this is hard to describe, but what you're going to remember of this, people, after Roman gets back on that TV and starts being an asshole again, it will rebuild for him. Now, since on Raw, Brock Lesnar beat the crap out of him, Now, he seems to be losing support instead of gaining support. But this is what always bothered me about WWE. A babyface can be getting the shit beat out of them, yet no other babyfaces run to the ring to kind of help him.
Yeah.
He's like, Cody Rhodes has got to be the most hated guy in the good guy locker. Nobody.
Bad guys have friends and the good guys don't. I've never quite understood that.
They keep those, they keep those guys around that'll help them out. But Cody and some of the other baby faces, they don't have a friend in the world. And they'll just lay out there and just be dead. Like, don't you know he would get up and go to the restroom and he said, "Hey guys, did you see me getting the shit beat out of me? Can't you help me out?" And that's what the fans think. But then again, fans go for the show, and sometimes you got to make allowances for that. And that's wrestling fans. They just do that. But it was a good match. It surprised me, though. And I brought this up to somebody else. All the heavy money was on Cody. Mm-hmm. Betting. And then all of a sudden, Cody loses.
Maybe we need to call DraftKings and see if anyone placed any $9.3 billion bets on Roman Reigns winning.
I wonder if you went to DraftKings and you wanted to put $10 million bet down, you think they would cover that?
You would have to go through some sort of specialist hotline for them to take it, I think. But, I mean, there are bookkeepers who will take ridiculous bets like that.
I would like to see. It won't be me betting $1 million.
There's an old joke. It's from a sitcom here, and it's like it's talking about how stupid someone is. He said, "This someone was offered paid £1,000 to bet that the world would end next year, and he bet that it would."
That is actually funny. He bet that it would. You got to think about that a minute. That is pretty good.
I will.
So, but anyway, main event. It was roundly criticized and panned. And I don't care what they're going to do. You're still going to have your naysayers on it. But again, the story doesn't finish, and the story goes on. And I've never been a big wrestling fan up to now. Because, in Memphis, I was in the mix. In Puerto Rico, I was in the mix. But I was never the fan because I knew what was going to happen. But in watching this and not knowing what's going to happen has made me a fan again. And I appreciate it more now than I think I did before.
There you go. And a thumbs up from Dutch for the event. A thumbs up from me as well, because it was very well done. And the only thing I'd say is probably, I mean, you could have easily made that like half an hour shorter, just cutting down on, not even the matches, just cutting down on some of like the fluff in between. But
they could have cut it down 15 minutes by just Cody's entrance and Roman's entrance.
Yeah.
Entrance. God, it took them a half hour. My God. I mean, I thought Roman would never get to the ring. Then you go and he does this and he acknowledged me and whatever. It just took forever. To me, I would think, now if somebody told me, I would say, speed up your entrance a little bit because people know you're not going to do nothing when you get in there. So just get in there and speed it up. Because it irritates me they take so long to get in there. But they did it well, and I'm interested in what they did Monday night and see where that leads. So, and you see how quickly the landscape changes.
Yeah.
One TV, it all changes. But Cody is still there, and now they're gonna make him run the gamut.
On that, I will thank you very much for your time, Dutch, and I will close out this podcast. Someone needs to pay my ransom so I can escape this room. But I was actually thinking before, and the only thing I need is like a national flag behind me. Oh, but that makes it seem more like a militia video, actually, doesn't it?
Well, you need to be on your knees, hands behind you, and you're talking.
And a pillowcase on my head.
And you're looking at a minder right off camera to see if you're safe. and then at the end you finish and you go.
Send help.
That's when the bat gets your bag. Boom. And we get to edit that out.
Yeah. Well, I'm not going to edit that. I'm going to leave that in. But for now, thank you very much. We've got books. I say it at the beginning. I'm not going to say it at the end. I've got this T-shirt. There we go.
You people mean nothing to me.
We can get that at the link under this video and every podcast. You can't miss it. Excuse me. I'm going to cough myself to death. But on that, thank you very much, Dutch. I will catch you again next week. We will catch you again next week, and we the people.
We the people.